I will call the city council meeting to order. Start with roll call. Council at large Cummins.
Here.
At large Poston. Here. Ward number 1 Hembry. Here. Ward number 2 Helm. Here. And Ward number 3 McNeil.
Here.
All right, so pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so down to the agenda approval. There are no changes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Cummins with the first and McNeil with the second.
Cummins? Yes. Poston?
Yes.
Hembry?
Yes.
Helm?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
All right, that moves us down to the communications part. This would be where anyone could address the city council. That's fine, you can stay right there. Usually we've got a podium, but we haven't gotten that back yet. Just state your name and address for the record.
It's Deb Moyman, 1118 Lynn Street, Tipton. And I have a few questions and I have some pictures. I know that they went around and planted trees. And when they planted trees across the street from where I live, there were no trees there. So it wasn't like it was the derecho took them out. And I've already had 2 times where the water system is broken in the street and they planted one right across from my house. I'm really not real happy about it. I tried to call Steve Nash, he would never get back to me. So, and I also took pictures of, like, I've done it before where if you notice the trees uptown, some of them have broken the sidewalks and the bricks around where the trees are planted. The trees are too big. They were basically too big when they were planted. Whoever did it, which would be, I'm sure, Steve Nash, should have known better than to plant bigger trees. And I also have a picture of right now where the leaves have blown on the main street. This one's going down 5th Street. But this is where they blow into the buildings because I help Mitch Stumbo out with the thrift store once in a while. And they blow right in because of the way the buildings are built with the walkways going into the buildings. The trees blow, the leaves blow when they fall right into your building. And they have no way or access. What are they to do with the leaves? And then when they did plant the trees, there were people that did not want the trees planted, but they went ahead and did it. And no one took into consideration the elderly that have hard enough time cleaning up their yards the way it is with what they have. Then maybe they didn't want another tree to deal with, but they got it in. And I did not see anyone where you have to call. When I planted trees, I had to call and make sure there were no water lines, gas lines, this and that. I didn't see them mark that off for those trees that were planted across the street from me. And the neighbor guy didn't want a tree because it goes right, if there's a picture here, it goes right to where the manhole, when the roots go to water is where they go. I mean, we all know that. Evidently, some people don't. But if you think about it, this was a very bad move on our part. And I see that we're going to be, as a taxpayer, the ones that are going to replace everything that gets broken uptown, the cement, and those trees being removed because they're too big. And you can keep these pictures.
Yes, I was gonna say you can hand them to Melissa. You have them labeled on the back, I see.
Most of them, and then the drainage systems are all being clogged that no one, we're so worried about planting trees, but nobody cares about cleaning out the drainage systems. But that's all I have for you, but I just figured common sense doesn't take much.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I did it before, but nothing was done about it.
All right.
believe she's wrapped up her remarks. There's no one else for the communication portion. I'll close that and move on to the consent agenda. And these can be enacted with one motion. It is the approval of the council meeting minutes from October 18th, approval of the library minutes from September 20th, approval of the library director's report from September of 21, approval of the airport minutes from October 20th, approval of the 2020 annual police department report, approval of the Chambers lighted parade route and community Christmas tree lighting on November 27th, the approval of a new indoor pool heater from Carico Aquatics at $15,000 plus shipping. And then finally, the approval of the claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. Any of these need to be pulled out?
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment in regards to one and,
The number one, you mean?
yeah, number one and then number 7.
Yep.
On number 1, when roll call come up for access to City Hall, I use my standard phrase, what are you afraid of? And I'm not a big fan of, and I would have voted no for the buzz-in system. It's not a cost thing, it's just, I know that the entryway is always locked down from access other than the breezeway, and the breezeway is normally open. You know, so I wasn't in favor, and I had a breakup in communication from Lisa.
Oh, okay.
And then item 7, I was out at the Aquatic Center today. The paint is coming off the walls of the interior atrium.
Yep.
Because ventilation system for the air handlers aren't even running.
Yep.
Adams propped the doors open to the north to bring in fresh air. What leverage or activities are we pursuing to get after the contractor on making that stuff run so that the air inside is taken care of before we take care of the water? Because you start heating that water up, it's just going to soup up the atmosphere some more.
They're working on a timeline between the general Sheets Construction, and they have been working with all of the contractors, including the vendor Desert Air, Kraus, and there's one other one. Are you familiar with this, Addie?
A little bit. I can't remember what the company's called though. In regards to the keeping the water warm when the heater gets installed in the ventilation system, before the heater broke, we would close the doors to the indoor pool a couple hours before we'd have people there. And that made the water or the air temperature warmer, and it wasn't affecting the water temperature as much as you would think. As far as the water cooling down.
It seems like, well, if I remember the project right, and it seems like it started 100 years ago. The idea was the dehumidifiers, things like that, weren't completely bad. They could be rehabbed, they could be partly kept and partly fixed. But it seemed like the more they got into the project, the less rehabbable things were. And you guys have seen change orders since you've been here. And if you talk about, if you had the ability to do something over because of what you know today, I probably would have suggested that all the money from the settlement that the city made would be put into going new instead of trying to do some new and rehab some of the rest. And I think that's been the problem. It just seems that whenever you think something's been fixed, something else goes bad. And that's how this thing has been plagued. And they have been working, I think the timeline that was set was to try to have all the new replacement parts that Desert Air would supply, so there wouldn't be any horsing around with other sources. They were going to send everything. And it's supposed to be on track to where everything is in and fixed and running, I think it was by early December, if I remember that right, and if it hasn't changed since. But yeah, this has been one frustrating marathon, telethon project.
Well, I exposed myself to it today because I was doing stuff at the school, blowing out the football field's irrigation. And to walk through that atrium and not see the fans, where Adam can't even turn the fans on, bring in fresh air, was like, okay. I go, can you exhaust? No. And it sounds like there's a disconnect between desert air and the boys out west than Kraus in getting things accomplished for the city. And it'd be nice if we could make the ventilation system inside the building. To me, the building's ventilation to store the equipment takes precedence over heating up a 54-degree well water we pour into it on a regular basis. Now, I understand my hot tub sets at 98 degrees. That pool water, I think you said 70 degrees this morning? Okay, you jump in that and you're gonna jump right back out, and it's not a recreational pool no more. It's a horse tank to me. So, that's where I struggle, okay? We still need to get the heater.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna deny that piece of, okay? There's an old heater sitting in the old high school that we'll give to the municipal utilities for the aquatic center, and know it have enough BTU for the lazy river side. But at what point are we going to turn up the heat to take care of the building? Because we keep eating the building from the inside out. Like you say, should have taken the settlement money, pushed it in and started over.
Yeah.
And it's a tough call because that was 5.2 million. And we've had nothing but aggravation, trying to keep it alive.
Yeah.
But my disconnect today was solely the building's ventilation wasn't working, but we're looking at buying a heater. And I just caught that as a little bit off.
So the last update that we have is, puts us the first week or early second week of November when the parts are received. 2-week install for the parts puts our startup for Desert Air at the beginning of December.
And you were looking at the temperatures used by, the regular such as aquatic classes and things like that, and the swim team. And you determine or health.
Yeah, there's an increased risk for things like shock when your temperature gets to about 70 degrees. So we've actually limited our facility hours.
The swim team goes to Muscatine.
Yeah, the swim team's not practicing. The only people that are still there is swim club.
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said swim club.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long they'll
Yeah.
keep swimming, but we've had to postpone swim lessons now, and because my instructors won't even get in the water. It's just too cold, and I don't want the kids to be miserable either. So we shortened our hours to save a little bit more money on labor, because we were not having any of our members or anybody come in for open swim at all.
But Mayor, you said December 1 is when Desert Air is supposed to wake them up.
Where'd it go? Yep, totally did.
Yeah, you're okay.
I'm
trying to catch up on this.
So it says,
It goes back like 3 years, I think.
I didn't know anything about the settlement.
Yeah.
this from Greg Rickles at Sheets said second week of November, or is when first week or early second week of November, when the parts should be received. 2-week install for parts, and then that puts their startup for Desert Air at the beginning of December. CI3 will be on site the last week of November to do a startup before Desert Air does their startup, just to head off any problems, get them addressed before Desert Air arrives. There you go.
Okay.
And then everything will go off without a hitch. I may have been that.
Well, I hope it works out better than some of the other contractors' works we've seen as of late, so. With that complaint, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Henry with the first. I'll second. And Poston with the second.
Poston,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
All right, so move us down to the next part of the business, which is the resolution approving the application for urban revitalization tax exemption for the Tipton Country Club. Linda or Brian? Linda? Brian?
This is for their new main building, and it's the 10-year graduated. Very similar to the other resolutions that the council has approved.
Because this is the pass-through.
Yeah,
It goes
basically.
on to the assessor.
Yeah, and what it should be, they'll do the math between the value of the new building and the value of the building that was removed. So it'd be the net of that, but it should easily be approvable.
All right, is there, if there's no questions, is there a motion?
Motion.
Second. Helm with the first and Poston with the second.
Henry,
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Poston,
Yes. All right, the second one, which is the discussion of possible action concerning the 4th Street Plaza development and whether to accept the two grant agreements. Any change, Mr. Wagner?
No?
All right, you guys don't have any questions or comments? I think, could I ask for what would be left out then?
No, it's just to do with the grant.
Just to do with the grant.
Yeah.
Will we move forward, right?
Yes.
So I'll ask for a motion on whether to move forward with the 2 grant agreements. Cummins with the first and Embry with the second.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Poston,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
The next one, number 3, is the discussion on possible action concerning having a street committee, finance committee, or council work session on December 6th at 5 PM.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a choice on what you feel most comfortable with, but this concerns the street project timeline. Just as an example, when I started, there were some things that were already set in the timeline. South Street, North Avenue were among those. And so, and then soon after that, Mulberry was identified. Well, now we have North Plum, or North Plum north of North Street. We have Spruce Street has come up. We've had some discussion about West Third. I guess I want to, so we can figure out the timeline and, are we looking at bonding for some of it? Are we looking at all of it as pay as you go? What's the order of priority? And then try to come back either during or early in budget process or budget season, kind of lay it out, because if you do all these projects, if you're interested in all of them or 2 out of 3 of them, if you do it strictly pay as you go by banking or storing up road use tax funds that comes in every year, it'll take a long time. It basically, we think, has to be a combination of banking road use tax funds and bonding. And as you know, we've been trying to stage bonds to happen as other bonds drop away. To the best of our ability, we'll try to look at those scenarios. But we want to get a better idea from the council, because those things, when I started, that were definite, are either done or in the timeline. They're on their way to being done. These other ones are coming up now, and we just want to either double check or see what you want to add. And if you're comfortable with this format, maybe the work session proposed for before the meeting on December 6th would hit your comfort zone, but we wanted to throw out the possibility of either street committee meeting, finance committee, or work session of the council.
So what do you guys think? I would think kind of street committee first.
I will not be here on the 6th.
Then maybe a streets committee.
What's that?
I'm good with that, streets committee.
That was just set up, and then it'd be just the streets committee first, and
Are you out for a series of days or maybe?
Well, I won't be here that Monday till Wednesday, basically. I won't be available at night.
Okay.
Just the days that affect them. No.
Yeah.
but yeah, like a streets committee meeting, we don't have to wait until then. We could meet tomorrow night if you guys were available. Well, I mean,
Yeah, no, tomorrow I'm gonna have fire, so. That too.
We won't be ready.
Okay.
so,
Yeah, well, maybe when we can, if it was a night like the 6th, we could work to that timeline. Maybe then, if we're doing the street committee, we could just work something up, and then when we're ready, contact you and see when you're ready. Okay.
all right, so kind of the streets committee will meet first and work on a plan.
Yeah,
All right, we don't need a motion for that. Unless you guys really want to make it binding, but. Move down to number 4, which is the discussion on possible action approving and authorizing the mayor to sign a service agreement for network resource interconnection service for an external generating facility between Tipton and MISO, as it has been amended.
Yeah.
Lloyd on?
Mhm.
All right.
Donna?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, this has been a long process, and Mike mentioned on the aquatic center, this goes back to a previous council that started the ball rolling, but it has to do with getting as much of our generation here as possible under contract with MISO for capacity credits, which is what they pay the electric utility for standby generation. And it can be a very good revenue source for the utility. I don't have the number we've talked about before. Do you have it?
No, I think they talked like 300,000 before.
That was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, that's annually too. And they have a long process where they test the generation, and now it's to the next stage. We have 9 megawatts that we submitted that they've accepted for capacity credits. This agreement is part of that process. Now, I can't tell you that I understand the ins and outs of that agreement at all, but we had it reviewed by Latham and Associates as our consultant. They made some changes that they thought we needed. A lot of it is boilerplate from MISO that they're not going to change, but some of the things we were allowed to change, we got input from Latham on. And so now we feel this is ready to go as the next step in that process.
So this is basically the next process for us to get paid by MISO.
Yes.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Austin with first and Cummins with the second.
McNeil?
Yes.
All right, number 5, which is discussion and possible action concerning a sewer adjustment at 403 West 10th. All right.
Well, I think the thing that, and you have a letter from Dan Kessler for Grasshopper Lawn Care and All Star Turf. The council, we put the ordinance in. And, it says the council has the discretion to adjust a water or a sewer bill. In the past, when you've done it, I believe it's been when there's been a water loss. leaking toilet, for example. This is a little different situation. This is a situation where water was used to water sod around a new building. So it would be, and there wasn't an outdoor meter for this. It was, and so the request is to recognize that the water that was used on the sod didn't go down the sewer, and therefore the request for the exemption or the reduction in the bill. Again, it's up to the council, but we wanted you to understand that this isn't the typical case of a leak or a correctable problem. This is the case of watering sod, and so as long as you understand that and approve it, knowing that, then that's fine, that's within your purview. Does either of you, Melissa or Amy, do you have anything to add?
I just worry about other customers asking
That's what I was
for the
just.
same thing
They open up a can of worms by
instead
doing this.
of getting a second water meter for their yard work. And that was Cindy's concern too.
So is it being asked to just totally exempt just the sewer consumption portion or both?
Sewer, I believe.
Yeah, just the sewer. Not the water that you put on the sod, just the equivalent of the sewer charge.
Can you verify it didn't go down the storm drain?
With your grass drain.
Typically, when I'm asking a question, if you water your grass, it goes in the storm drain.
Did we do something with
Like a tile field.
in their pool? Because they had someone with their pool and Brennan was there and they had an outdoor metered one, but they didn't use it. Or something like that.
You still have on the books, if you ask for a second meter, you charge 35 a year
Yes.
and you charge your
That's for water.
consumption rate plus your monthly fee for just water. That's if you're doing irrigation or whatnot, and it doesn't go down the sanitary sewer.
Yeah.
So you ask for a second meter and to make it pay, you have to spend 72,000 gallons of consumption at the old rate of 289. Now, with the new rate, it'd probably take a little less gallons to cover that. But, that's been on the books since 2003. So if you wanted a second meter, you could always get it for irrigation purposes. But if it come out of a residential home, I always thought it was silly. If you want an irrigation system, you put in an irrigation system, which is what some of them have up on, next to the country club.
Mhm. All right. Any other thoughts? Then I would ask for a motion either which way, to deny, table, or approve.
Motion to deny.
McNeil with the first to deny and Cummins with the second.
Hoskins,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes,
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
All right, the last one tonight is a discussion and possible action concerning moving the November 15th council meeting to November 22nd. I will be out of town on the 15th.
Oh, I make a motion?
I have a conference to attend and we have an extra week that we can play with in November. So I thought if everybody'd be all right with it. Apparently one really is all right with it to move it to the 22nd.
was that a school board thing down at Des Moines?
School counseling thing in Des Moines, yes. So Cummins with the first.
Awesome.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
All right, so thank you for that. And now it's on to the mayor's report. I would like to say library minutes, Anna said how much they liked the look of the steps. And they do look great over there.
Yes.
The lights, looks like they did a really good job. Dane did an amazing job with the masonry. And hopefully they last just as long as the first batch did. Council reports?
I just want to say thank you for the use of the fire station for the trunk or treat, because boy, was that nice. I like not having to stand outside in the cold and the rain, and I like seeing the kids happy.
Committee reports? City manager, Mr. Wagner?
Nothing tonight.
Department heads? Nobody online? All right, then that moves us down to adjournment. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion.
Cummins with the second.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Henry.
All right, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.